there is a new call today to literally stop the presses, and they are threatening to sue the publisher, Henry Holt and Company, if the book hits the shelves next week as planned.
It's completely tabloid gossip full of false and fraudulent claims.
Thank you very much.
I don't know, he called me a great man last night, so, you know, he obviously changed his tune pretty quick.
I would say to Steve Bannon, if he's listening to your show, why don't you drop the nonsense, apologize to everybody.
Don't worry, there will be no daylight between the agenda, Donald Trump, and the folks at Breitbart, and this show and the website.
It's been an amazing 48 hours. This one author, this one book, Michael Wolff, is the author, and he had access to the Trump administration in the early days, as well as many interviews, which he says he taped. The book is Fire and Fury Inside the Trump White House. It was supposed to be coming out next week. Wolff tweeted today, "Here we go. You can buy it and read it tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. President." Rush Limbaugh weighing in on the publisher, moving the date up.
That's the best promotion a book could get. You have your lawyers send the publisher a threatening letter. You better not publish that. All that does is make everybody, whoa, what is in this sucker? They want to go out and read it before it's published. They get copies of it however they can. So that's the best promotion the book can have.
Well, there is obviously other news, but this has been the news in Washington, and that's why it's here in the panel. Let's bring in our panel. Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics co-founder and publisher. Molly Hemingway, senior editor at The Federalist. And Charles Lane, opinion writer for The Washington Post. Okay, Tom, the cease and desist and all of the coverage, really, that has come from the White House about this book has been quite something to watch.
Very much, and Russ is exactly right. I mean, this is a publisher's dream to have that kind of publicity. I'm sure the book is going to be a bestseller instantaneously. But the president's statement against Steve Bannon last night, Rebecca Mercer's statement against Steve Bannon today has really been extraordinary. I mean,
Let's explain that. Rebecca Mercer is part of the Mercer family. They supported him with money, billionaire.
Minority owner in Breitbart News, had been a big backer of his for a long, long time. She issued a statement to the Washington Post earlier tonight saying she's cutting ties with him, she's still supporting Breitbart News, not supporting any of Steve Bannon's other political initiatives, hasn't spoken to him in months. So pretty remarkable fall for him from where he was just a few months ago. But yeah, this is a pretty amazing event. The amount of publicity and consternation, controversy that this book has generated in Washington over the last 48 hours.
And obviously the White House, Molly, is pushing back hard, saying that there are people who say the quotes are not accurate, that the descriptions are not accurate. Wolff is saying that he had a lot of access in the early days.
Right. I mean, there are people who have said on the record that the quotes that are attributed to them are not accurate. There's Katie Walsh, Tom Barak. He's also said things that are sort of demonstrably untrue, like that Donald Trump didn't know who John Boehner was, even though John Boehner has been talked about by Donald Trump for many years. He said that policy wonk Stephen Miller, who's known for just being obsessed with immigration policy, doesn't know anything about immigration, or doesn't know anything about policy. So there are things that are sort of obviously not true, and there is that reputation that Michael Wolff has of spinning very colorful stories, but also admitting that sometimes he makes them up. So everyone should take everything with a huge grain of salt. But there is some element of truth here, which is that the early days of the Trump administration were a pretty toxic environment with a lot of people fighting against each other. And I think that part does come out through the book.
There are nuggets in here, though, that ring true from other reporting, Chuck, and there are some new things. For example, Mark Carollo, who was a press person, was instructed not to speak to the press, indeed not even answer his phone. Later that week, Carollo, seeing no good outcome, privately confiding that he believed a meeting on Air Force One, this is a meeting about that Trump Tower, Donald Trump Jr. meeting, represented a likely obstruction of justice, and he quit. The Jared and Ivanka side would put it out that Carollo was fired. We haven't reached out to Carollo about that, but obviously the investigators on Capitol Hill and Mueller are going to be looking at some of these things in this book that they may not have talked about.
Correct. I agree to some extent with Molly that you've got to take everything Michael Wolff says with a grain of salt because of his record. The one thing, though, that has not been denied, unless I missed it, were the things Steve Bannon has said, and that's why he's in so much trouble. And he's got a radio show in which he could have denied them. And what Steve Bannon said was that he thought that meeting was treasonous and a big problem.
The Trump Tower meeting with the Russian
the one
lawyer.
that we're talking about. And that, I think, and this whole kerfuffle is the most significant thing of all that has any real heft to it, because it suggests, okay, Steve Bannon was in the middle of all that, forming opinions about what might be going on.
We should point out he was hired after the Trump Tower meeting, so he was not there.
True, but he knows the various people. And in other words, he just sort of he set himself up now to be questioned in the investigation, and he gratuitously took off after the president's
And they've already
son.
asked for him to testify up on the Hill.
Right, so which is a natural thing. I also think it's funny that Steve Bannon likes to paint himself as this revolutionary who's taking on the media, and yet he managed to say the one thing that everybody in the media said about that meeting, and he just parroted that exact line. I think people now think that's a pretty stupid thing to say, one he'll have to talk about perhaps with investigators, but it's exactly the media line that, you know, a guy who claims he's against the media just managed to parrot.
Ushering in people from the media with special access to the White House, like Michael Wolff.
Yeah. Which was the biggest real problem in the early days of that, for that approval to happen, for him to be kind of around the White House just talking to people, whether off the record or on the record, is quite something.
Especially given Michael Wolff's reputation. We're not talking about a presidential scholar, right, coming in to chronicle the administration. And in that sense, the Trump administration sort of got what they deserved. To have this guy have that kind of access, whoever authorized it, thought it was a good idea, thought it would end well for them, was obviously sorely mistaken.
All right, the one thing I just want to touch on, and this is now a narrative that we have talked about before, but it has picked up steam, especially with this book, because there are numerous parts of the book where they describe the president rambling. The Atlantic has a piece out, is something neurologically wrong with Donald Trump? It's best not to diagnose the president from afar, which is why the federal government needs a system to evaluate him up close. And you heard this over the past few days and at the briefing today.
Is ill fit to be president of the United States.
Next week, when he goes to his physical, are there mental acuity tests that go along with that, or is it purely physical in nature?
We'll have a readout of that after that is completed. If he was unfit, he probably wouldn't be sitting there.
I have seen him time and time again rely on the information that we've provided him to inform his decisions.
So when you hear these stories or see these stories that he's losing it or that he's not with it, what do you think?
It's absurd. I'll put it in Washington terms. It's demonstrably false.
That was from the Reagan Forum. I was asking the CIA director, who obviously briefs the president almost every day.
Look, the president is doing things that, by the standards of past presidents, are bizarre, like the tweet he put out about North Korea and the size of his button versus the size of Kim Jong-un's button. He is constantly embroiled in seemingly petty personal conflicts that revolve around what people said about him personally. There's no question that that kind of behavior is highly unusual for somebody in that office. So I guess it's natural that people would reflect on that and wonder about it. Whether it could actually be medicalized, whether people from a distance who aren't medical experts should be trying to diagnose it, is a very different question. But again, I think that is something that the president has brought on himself.
I'm not sure if there's a clearer case of projection than people who lose their minds every time he tweets anything, speculating on whether he's stable or not. But this is a violation of ethical guidelines on what should happen in terms of speculating about someone's psychiatric health. They actually call it the Goldwater rule, because at that time people speculated that Goldwater wasn't mentally stable. You heard it about Ronald Reagan. You heard it about George W. Bush. Now you hear it about Donald Trump. And so there is a limit to what can be done. You cannot speculate on someone's mental health. Particularly, this is a guy who has acted this way since the 80s, at least as far as I know, perhaps longer.
My prediction is that you will hear many more stories about the 25th Amendment from a number of media outlets, and that's the effort to remove a president in office.
That's right. But let's just remember, as Molly said earlier, I mean, all of this stuff that's coming out in this book was during the first few months of the administration, right? This is pre-John Kelly, the pre-John Kelly era. And I think Trump did sort of end the year on a high note with the passage of his tax reform plan. His approval ratings back up into the 40s. And so, obviously, I think that Trump's critics and folks in the media who are against him will take this opportunity to take some of these anecdotes from the book and rehash the issue of whether he's mentally fit to be in office or not.